Do you suffer from stress? Do you feel that you have too many things to do? Or it's just getting on top of you? The definition of stress is feeling of tension due to a stressor. A stressor is something that makes us feel tense or stressed. And this could be a physical thing. It could be from our bodies. It could be an emotional thing or psychological. And we will explain all this. Stress is also a biological response to a sudden situation or a sudden thing that's happened that could be dangerous and so leads to the rise of cortisol and adrenaline in the brain. These are the stress hormones. So stress is when we have raised levels of stress hormones that make us ready to fight for our life sometimes, and to deal with a problem that's very we cannot leave it. So it's a direct problem. And an example of this is perhaps if a lion or a terrorist or someone wants to attack us. Um, this is something that will save our lives sometimes. You know, when we get ready to fight for ourselves or to deal with a difficult situation, even maybe we can save the life of somebody else because we feel stressed. Um, and maybe we, for example, saving a small child from falling into a hole. You know, maybe we will see the child is about to fall and we go into the stress reaction, and we're able to forget everything else around us and put all our energy into saving this person or fighting with someone to save ourselves. So stress actually protects us when there is actually something there, and when it's not prolonged, and when it's maybe for a short time. For example, if there's a lion, maybe for one day or 2 days, maybe we can go without sleep. Maybe we can be prepared. Maybe we are able to um, sit and be ready for this lion. But when it's gone, for example, a week or 2 weeks, well, no one can stay in that level of stress and that situation for that amount of time. They'll feel tired. So this positive stress is called Eustress, and this is beneficial for us in small amounts. So it's not stress. Stress itself is not the bad thing, and we don't have to run away from stress totally. If it's not for a long period of time, and like we said, it may save our lives sometimes. If we feel stressed, we can defend ourselves or defend other people, or defend something important when it's for short periods. Maybe we can stay awake in the night to finish our homework for exam or something. But not every time. And we should be able to learn how to relax and how to deal with stress in the best way. And apparently stress in small amounts may benefit the brain, and it may help us deal with similar situations that happen after that in the future. So, for example, when we feel stressed, we learn something about how to deal with similar situations, and this will help us, and we will feel stronger and better equipped when we have a new situation. Often we may feel stressed and not know how to deal with it. But once we've gone through that one time, 2 times, or several times, each time it will be easier for us and just becomes like a normal routine maybe. So stress decreases when we've been through things as well. And as we said, it could save our lives at times. And so short-term stress is often caused by a new situation, and it can be things such as moving house, or even people getting married, having a child, or any other situation that's new to us. So stress is not just for situations that we don't like. Stress is not just for dangerous situations or things we don't like. We also get stressed when we have a situation that's new, and maybe we're worried. We don't know exactly what will happen. We have We have to adapt to a new situation, for example. This it has some amount of stress in it. Traveling has stress. Exams have stress. I mean, I think all students know this, and all students will feel stress because they're worried about the results. Work often has stress, and for example, when people have emergencies, somebody has passed out, someone has had coronavirus, for example, or a heart attack, and these sort of situations can lead to emergency stresses. And the long-term stress that may affect a person over a long period of time. So this may make a person feel tired and fatigued because their levels of hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, are going to be raised for that amount of time. This could lead to what people call adrenaline fatigue. Some people don't believe that there is such a thing as adrenal fatigue, but whether you call it adrenal fatigue or not, people after some time feel tired from dealing with a stressful situation. Whether it's you call it adrenal fatigue or tiredness, it's in the end, people when they have a stressful situation for a long time feel tired. This is something I think all people will acknowledge. And certain professions have higher levels of stress than others. For example, doctors, maybe they have to be on call in the night. They will have emergencies to deal with. People who maybe their lives need to be saved. People that if they don't help right now, they're going to die maybe. And same thing with firefighters. They have to put out the fire quickly before it reaches people, or they have to get people out of the house quickly and find a safe way to do so. And legal professionals, these people may be exposed to stress on a daily basis because also the work is not predictable. You can't predict that tomorrow will be there will be a fire at 5 o'clock, for example, or that someone will have a heart attack at 2 in the afternoon, so we should be ready, and we have an appointment for this person. These things happen unexpectedly, so they have to maybe change their schedules, their times, and be ready. So they're often in the flight or fight response. They often have stress. So these people have to be able to learn to deal with stress and have techniques for relaxation or so forth. And one of the things that makes us feel stressed in the long term is the feeling of not being able to cope. This is the underlying cause of stress, that we can't deal with this situation. It's above us. We are not above this situation. We're not in control of it. It's controlling us. And when we feel that we're not able to control this situation, we're not able to keep up, and things are above us, and we don't exactly know how to deal with them, this can lead to, in the long term, to anxiety, depression, and other health problems. Anxiety and fear, phobias, often all of them are related to stress in some level. And depression can also begin after stress, and stress can also cause other health problems. There's many problems, headaches, migraines, stomach problems, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, diabetes, some heart attacks, heart problems. A lot of them have, if we, stress could cause it, or at least make it more. I mean, stress is said to make pain, increase the feeling of pain. So if we can control stress, we can lessen these issues as well. So there are causes of stress, and actually there's said to be 4 main causes of stress, which are financial problems and money, work, and family responsibilities, and health. These are the 4 main areas that people are subjected to stress. But like we said, it can be anything that makes us feel overwhelmed, or we can't cope, or we don't know what to do, and new things. And there can be physical causes such as illnesses, especially long-term ones, accidents, inflammation in the body, and disability. So all the problems that we may experience physically can lead us to psychological stress. We may worry about what will happen to us, and not only for ourselves, for people who we are close to, our friends and relatives. They may experience stress. We may experience stress because they are ill or have had an accident. And there can be emotional causes of stress. For example, we feel hopeless, lonely, anxious, despair, we need something and we can't get that thing. Or, our relationships are not good, they're negative and unfulfilling. We can also have psychological causes of stress. For example, we've been abused and we're finding it hard to deal with it. We've experienced trauma. We're going through, we have financial worries and educational worries. We're worried about exams, our thesis, um, other types of study or work, and just feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope. So these feelings of stress raise the levels of stress hormones in the body, cortisol and adrenaline, and these help us to respond to a dangerous or important situation quickly and efficiently. So in the past, when people's lives were more simple, really, I think people would just feel stressed when there really was a big stressor. For example, a wild animal really was attacking them, or a person was attacking them. They were entering a war, or they had to deal with some issue. Not every day, but every so often there would be maybe a scorpion or a snake or something they'd have to deal with that maybe affected their stress hormones. But in our day and age, we have a lot more stress. Life is a lot harder than the past. This is something that people know. I mean, even the things that we think have made our lives easier, such as the mobile phones, the computers, and so forth, in some ways they actually increased our level of stress because uh, we find it hard to relax without these things, and sometimes they cause more problems than we need. And these a lot of the things that are not natural to us, they actually cause feelings of stress. For example, if someone is late for a meeting, if they don't have a phone, they will just be late, and they can make their apology when they reach the situation. If someone has a mobile phone, they'll have to listen to being shouted at all the way on the street, and this makes people feel more stressed and more tired, having to, or the feeling of having to check your phone often in case somebody called, or what somebody may want, or what has happened to them, or why is somebody not answering. These also affect us and make us feel stressed in some way. So many people have said how when they close their phones for some time, and especially before going to sleep, they feel less stressed. Um, and in general, we have more work, and we have um, the relationships between people are also not as strong. So the things that helped us before as well, helped people before, we have less of, and we have more of the negative things. So this can lead to more raising of cortisol and adrenaline. And if cortisol is raised over a long period of time, this may lead to high blood pressure and high sugar in the blood. And it can also lead to weight gain and fat around the abdomen, and make our face puffy as well as the upper body, and lead to forgetfulness and even brain shrinkage. And raised adrenaline may lead to exhaustion over time. And this is what we call adrenal exhaustion. So stress affects our mental health, and it can give us physical symptoms and even make us feel weak in the body. And emotionally, we feel less able to function and get on in the real world. We may feel, maybe our work suffers. We suffer and our work suffers. Maybe we don't do as well as at work, even though we try, because we just have too much to do and too much to think about. And maybe we don't have as good relationships because we just feel too tired to deal with, somebody else telling us about their life or something like this, and being totally present with people. So the degrees of stress, or the ordinary and everyday stress we have, such as having to deal with work or study projects, meeting new people and dealing with family members, as well as neighbors and others, and some degrees of conflict. And there's mild stress, which is meeting deadlines, maybe moving house or changing jobs, and becoming a parent or getting married. And I mean, we say mild or extreme, but this is depends on the person. Some people may have see some situation as mild or easy to deal with, whereas another person may see that thing as a big deal and a very big issue, and with a lot of stress. So, although we've termed it mild stress, for some people these things may be huge stresses and cause a lot of anxiety and so forth. And in general, extreme stress is when someone is actually afraid for for their life or someone else's life, or they've been threatened, or they've witnessed a fire or tragedy, or even been attacked. So this extreme stress obviously will have more effect on the body, more effect on the mind. Maybe will last longer and will have um, they will take longer to get over this kind of stress, and maybe they might need psychological support. Um, the more we feel in control of any situation, the less likely you are to feel stressed, or we'll just feel less stressed. I mean, maybe we can't say we will never feel stressed, and the less control we feel in any situation, the stronger the effects of stress. And stress can be related to how we perceive a situation and what we can do about it. When we feel overwhelmed, we feel more stressed. So how to deal with this stress? We can lessen the immediate feeling of stress by not taking on too many projects or more than we can bear. And if we can avoid any potentially stressful situation, this is the best thing to do. And we can learn about our personality type, and this can help us to understand ourselves better and when we may feel stressed and how to deal with such situations. For example, some of us are more sensitive than others. When you're more sensitive, you'll feel more stressed more easily in normal situations. Someone in the same situation may not feel the same level of stress that you feel because maybe you're more sensitive. So it's normal for people to be in one situation and feel different levels of stress, because as well we have different things going on in our lives. We have different experiences in our lives, and we have different personalities and different thresholds for stress. So, for example, a sensitive person or an introverted person may feel stress in certain situations, whereas somebody else will not feel so. So, when we know about our personality type or how we are, we can plan for new events and learn about new situations and places before they happen, and try and reduce this feeling of stress and prepare ourselves in the way that we know is suitable for us. And try not to leave everything until the last minute or leave things to pile up. And we can, in the short term, we can reduce stress by, for example, drinking herbal teas, chamomile tea, green tea, and teas without caffeine. And we can lessen the amount of coffee because caffeine raises the levels of cortisol, so we'll feel more stressed when we drink caffeine. I mean, if we drink green coffee is said to have a lot less caffeine than the black coffee, which has been fermented, I think. So you can have other types of coffee rather than the very strong kind. This can lessen the caffeine and the level of cortisol. And taking more exercise raises the levels of good feeling hormones and lowers cortisol and adrenaline. For example, exercise like yoga, swimming, even walking for half an hour in a day or so can make a lot of difference to how we feel. We can get rid of this negative energy. We can put our energy into something that's more beneficial and get rid of the negative energy, and at the same time raise these positive hormones. And we could also make time for relaxation, meditation, prayer, and worship. All of these are said to be beneficial for our, to decrease the feeling of stress and for ourselves in general. We can walk in parks, in natural places. Seeing green color is said to make some people feel peaceful and natural things. So if we go to these places, we can reduce our stress in these times. And it's said that practicing mindfulness, which means that we are in the present. We are aware of what we are doing, and we don't think about the past or the future, what we're going to do, worrying about what we did before. We're entirely present in the moment, and we're actually engaged when we eat. We're actually tasting the food. We're actually seeing what we eat. I mean, many people, they eat food and maybe they didn't even, I mean, of course, I think they know what they ate, but maybe, they don't, people that eat very quickly, maybe they're thinking about something else. They don't really take the time to savor the taste, savor the food, and actually think about what they're eating or what they're doing. When you are mindful, you notice things that you would not think to notice before. And this way makes people feel more calm and peaceful than thinking about future things that we don't know if they will happen or not, or past things that, maybe there's nothing we can do about now. And there's been a correlation between assertion and stress. Being assertive has been found to help reduce feelings of being overwhelmed and stressed due to being in control of the situation. And assertion is different to aggression, because aggressive people don't give another person the right or the chance to disagree, and they just attack them. And then we have under assertion, when a person doesn't express their wants and wishes. So assertion is between being aggressive and between being under assertive or passive, and an assertive person is able to say something in a clear way. They say what they want, but they try to respect the other person and the other person's wants and needs as well. So, for example, an assertive person will say what they want or wish, and they will not attack or infringe the rights of others. They respect the other people's opinions and the right to disagree. For example, maybe someone wants to have a pay rise in their job. So an aggressive person may shout at their employer. Maybe they will shout at them and tell them that, I deserve more than this. I have been working a lot, very hard, and you are a very bad person, because how could you not give me more money? I need more money for my family, and you are a very bad person. You're greedy and you don't want to give me. I do more work than this. Maybe they'll attack the person so that they will feel bad, and maybe they will refuse this request, and the aggressive person will just feel angry, and maybe they raise their blood pressure, blood sugar level, and this also affects people's hearts and stuff. That's why aggressive people, this way of dealing with people in an aggressive way is not beneficial for people's health or for dealing with stress. And on the other hand, an under assertive person or passive person will probably not say anything. Maybe they want a pay rise. They may or they may just ask, is it possible to have a pay rise? No, it's not possible. And they will not put away, they will not express themselves in an appropriate way. And they feel that they are below someone or something like this. So this is also not a good way to be, because if we don't express ourselves, sometimes we feel we're trapping something, we're holding something back, and this leads to stress. And they say this kind of behavior is the behavior that can lead to illnesses such as cancer. Because when you're not expressing yourself and keeping something in, this is like an irritation to the body, and irritations can chafe us and maybe lead to illnesses such as cancer in the end. For this reason, the best way to deal with things is being assertive. So, for example, if someone wants a pay rise, they can just make the point very clear that, for example, I've been working in this company for 3 years or so, and I've noticed that there are other people who have higher wages than me, but I'm actually working overtime. I take work home, and I work very hard, and I have a family to support. I would like to ask if it's possible to I would like to request a pay rise, if you agree and if there's no problem with that. So maybe they can discuss together, the employer and the employee, and reach an agreement between themselves. So both of them will feel satisfied, and this decreases stress, and the person has actually said what they wanted. They've released what they want. So this is how assertion helps people to feel less stressed. Stress and personality. As we mentioned, certain personalities are more prone to stress. For example, sensitive people may feel more overwhelmed than others in stressful situations. And we mentioned about aggression. This is related to the type A personality. And they tend to feel more stressed and overwhelmed than others because they try to take on too much, and also because they are aggressive and they don't really deal with other people or things in the best way. These type A personality types also don't tend to relax much. They tend to take on too much work and try to finish it as soon as possible. And when they're dealing with people, just they are aggressive. So this leads to a lot of stress, and you know these people can have raised levels of raised blood pressure and blood sugar, and maybe they will have a tendency to heart problems and heart issues. So for this reason, it's better that these people, although they're ambitious, it's good to be ambitious, but they should learn to deal with stress better. For example, learning to deal with people in a more assertive manner rather than aggressive, maybe taking on less or taking more time for relaxation and hobbies, and trying to reduce their stress levels. And type C behavior is also stressful, and type C is when someone, as we mentioned before, is more passive, and they prefer to allow others to make decisions for them, and they repress their true wants and needs. And these people, maybe they're very nice people, but they tend to put everyone else first, like martyrs. They will allow others to decide for them, and they'll put everyone else first. They will not say when they're not happy. They will try and tell people they're happy when they're not happy. They don't want to upset people, so they don't tell them that they're really they were disappointed that someone didn't do as they promised they would. They don't want to annoy people, so they will not ask for the pay rise. They will not ask someone to do things for them. And this is stressful because they're keeping everything to themselves and not expressing themselves. So in the end, these people don't feel happy as well in life. Because if you're going throughout life having unfulfilling relationships, for example, you feel you want your you want your friend to be um to you want to go places with your friends. You want your partner in life, your life partner, to be more understanding or to deal with you in a better way. Yet if you don't say all these things, and they don't know, and you just leave them, you think you have no right to say anything, you will just stay in an unhappy situation, repressing your true wants and needs. Maybe if you are more assertive, you could come to some agreements and maybe improve these levels of life in some way. I mean, many people, they want to see the people around them happy. Many people are happy when someone actually expresses their true feelings and wants with them. So type C behavior is stressful because they're not expressing themselves, and they're not actually happy, and this can lead in the long term to illnesses such as cancer. So the type B behavior, which we didn't actually write here, is when a person is between these two, and they work hard, but they take time for relaxation. For example, they'll go to the gym, they'll do exercise, they'll go for walks, they'll have friends, and they'll have healthy relationships with people. They say what they want and express themselves, and they they put a time for everything. They balance their life, so um, they don't allow things to overwhelm them too much, and they deal with people with assertiveness, so they feel satisfied, and so do others around them. And there are passive aggressive people, These people, they will appear passive, but actually they're aggressive. They will refuse to do things through actions. For example, maybe they'll say to someone that, yes, they will do this work, and then you find that they didn't do it. This is passive aggressive behavior. It's like refusing to do some work um, by just not doing it. And some other personality types, for example, introverts, they tend to feel more stress in social situations than extroverts. For example, extroverts in a social situation feel very comfortable and happy. So extroverts are comforted by company and they feel stressed more when they are alone, whereas introverts, they may need more time to get used to things and may take on too many things, and they feel um, they feel stressed more in social situations, and they are more comfortable by themselves. And for this reason, they also prefer uh, things not to happen suddenly, and even things such as having to answer the phone or messages suddenly is not something that introverts are really comfortable doing. So with an introverted person, they they're more comfortable to leave messages to answer after a few days, where they can take time to think about the answer and prepare for it. Extroverted people are more able to deal with situations straight away. So personality is related to how we deal with stress as well. And there are certain symptoms of stress we can look for, such as physical symptoms, headaches or stomach upsets and problems, because it affects our digestion system, digestive issues. Maybe our immune system will be weaker, so we may experience more colds and flu, and we may feel physical pain. Physical pain may be increased. We may feel more fatigue and tired and crave junk food and sweets. Um, we may have emotional symptoms, for example, crying without any obvious reason or behaving in a childlike manner, frequent worrying and anxiety, because stress leads to anxiety often, and feelings of depression or feeling like a failure, feeling lonely and isolated because feeling that other people don't really understand what's happening with you, and that you're just alone in this situation, or you feel you can't really cope. This stress is overwhelming you. You can't cope and can't deal with this situation, or you feel withdrawal from people, and you have maybe relationship issues or problems. And psychological effects of stress are, for example, decreased ability to function. Maybe you have decreased mental health. You have more problems with other people, withdrawing and not wanting to be around people, finding being with people tiring. You feel that the world is against you or feel like a failure, and just feeling not being able to cope as well. So how does Islam or the Islamic way of life deal with such a thing as stress? I mean, the main thing is that Islam teaches us how to deal with life in the best way, and how to prepares us that stress is actually an inevitable part of life. I mean, there's no word that actually says stress, but we're told tribulations and trials and tribulations, they are something that is bound to happen. This happens to all people, and it's written in the Quran. It tells us that Allah, has sent trials and afflictions to test us and to know who is the best in action. So this is in Surah Mulk, and I think people who've memorized Surah Mulk, they know إِنَّبَلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So this affliction is for testing people who is best in action. When we have a difficulty in life, we're supposed to learn or know how to deal with this situation in the best way. So this is the meaning of the verse. And some other verses of the Quran, they show that Allah is in control of everything. And at the same time, Allah does not we're told in another verse that Allah does not overburden a person with more than they can bear. So we know that we are being tested in when we have to deal with difficult situations, and just knowing that actually makes us prepared that okay, we have to know how to deal with this now. This is a test and it's inevitable, and we know from the other verse that a person is not overburdened with more than they can bear. The tribulations that Allah sends to people are different. Some people was, maybe they have a test where they have not enough money. Somebody else has a test where they have to deal with difficult family members. Somebody else has a test where they've lost a child, they've lost a loved one, they've died or something. They have to deal with this situation as well. We all have we all find ourselves in different situations, and not only the negative things, but when we find we have a lot of money, this is another test as well, to test us how we will deal with these positive things. And for example, a lot of money, are we going to just go and waste it playing around, wasting money, or will we give it to charities? Will we give to the poor people we see around us who are in need? So this is also a test. And at the same time, when we organize our lives and our time, we'll feel less stressed, because having a routine or something makes us feel less stressed and more prepared to deal with things. And Islam helps people to organize their time. So you'll find in a day, if a Muslim follows the way of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Quran, I mean, some people obviously they can't follow everything, and there are some things people have to follow and some things that are just recommended. So if someone follows all these recommendations and the way that our Prophet ﷺ lived his life, they will have an organized life. They will wake up in the dawn time to pray, for example, and there are certain recommended times to sleep. For example, sleeping early after the last prayer, because in Islam there's 5 prayers. If someone is able to sleep almost directly after the last prayer, it's good, it's recommended, and scientifically this is the best time for sleeping. It's better for our health, and we have better sleep at this time. So if we follow this and wake up in the dawn, we're also told that waking up before the dawn prayer is very beneficial for ourselves. This is from the psychologists, not from imams or something. They say that waking up before the dawn prayer is very beneficial for people with depression, and there's a better air at that time, and people feel calmer. They feel better if you wake up at that time. And this is a time that's recommended for Muslims to wake up and pray night prayers. So if you're praying night prayers, you are benefiting from this time in more than one way. We're told that this time as well is the time that Allah actually, and I mean, Allah answers prayers all the time, but He's made this time specifically. He said that He will answer prayers at this time. So we can wake up at the dawn prayer, and we'll have another prayer when the sun is at its zenith. And the morning time is the best time, for example, studying or doing more work that requires more effort and concentration. I mean, we're told the levels of cortisol we have are more raised in the morning, for example, around the time of 7 in the morning. So doing more work in the morning is actually beneficial. So starting our day early is good, and it's helpful to deal with stress and issues. So organizing the times of eating and sleeping, praying, Islam puts everything in routine. We know the times for prayers. We have the recommended times for sleeping. We're told that the night is for sleeping. It's not recommended to go the whole night without sleeping. Some of the early Muslims, they would, for example, sleep in the first part or the first 2 parts of the night and wake up in the last part and maybe study or do something in that part. It's recommended to start the day early, maybe if someone needs to sleep a bit in the day, to sleep before the the middle prayer, and not to sleep after the last two prayers. I mean, just the very last one, the fifth one, is recommended to sleep after that. And we can make our routine for eating as well. Try to also eat early, to have our breakfast early when we start work, after the sunrise or the dawn, or as people, before people start work, and try to finish the last meal before the Maghrib time, for example. And another way that Islam helps us to deal with these feelings of stress and anxiety is the belief in qadr, or destiny. And this is the belief that everything is written for us and everything happens for a reason, and it was bound to happen that way anyway. So there's a saying of Abu Huraira that, it's actually surprising that someone who believes in destiny has problems with anxiety. Because if you know everything is going to happen, we wouldn't have to worry so much. And the belief in Allah, that Allah is there, that He's there in general, that belief brings feelings of peace and security in itself. And the belief that Allah knows us very well and sees us wherever we are is another of the beliefs that helps us to feel less stressed. We know that there is someone who hears us and is there wherever we are, and He hears our prayers and will answer them. And we can turn to Him with any problem at any time. And this makes people feel more secure and less worried and less stressed, because they have one to turn to and complain to and ask. And when we know that we will be answered, we know that there is a way, even if we can't see any way around us sometimes for a situation. We know we can trust that our prayers may be answered. And this is why people, when they're in difficult situations, for example, sometimes we hear that people have been in plane crashes, or they've been on the plane and there's turbulence, and there's nothing that someone can do in that situation. So the only thing that people can do at those times is just pray. And this is mentioned in the Quran as well, that there are some people who they maybe they don't pray at all in their life, maybe they don't really have any faith or religion, but for example, they'll be in the sea and the sea will be turbulent and they'll be afraid at that time. So at that time they will pray. They will suddenly pray and turn to God and ask Him to save them and make all their faith for God. So, and it says in the Quran that God will answer them as well. Even though Allah knows their situation, He will answer them. But then after He answers them, they will just go back to not believing, not paying attention. So this is like a program I saw on the TV a long time ago as well, that there were some atheist people who admitted that they prayed sometimes when they felt they were in danger. And they were asked, why did you do that? They just said they just felt to pray, they didn't see any solution. Maybe they were afraid to have a car crash or something, so they just automatically just prayed. So this is like an instinct for people in these dangerous times, that when there's no other way, when we don't see some solution, we often people will just turn to prayer. And the effects of prayer, for example, prayer has been found to be a good stress reliever, and is described as the weapon for the believer. And from its benefits, we can ask the one who is able to change and improve our situation, and we may be answered. So, obviously the main thing that will relieve us is if we receive an answer, but the actual asking and knowing that there's one there to hear us is also a stress reliever. And when we feel that we are being heard, that Allah hears us, this can relieve stress. And the other thing is that prayer is actually free and does not cost anything. I mean, if people want to go to the doctor, they want to go and use a counselor, they want to buy stress relieving tablets, stress balls, stress. All of these cost money. Prayer doesn't actually cost anything, and you don't have to go anywhere. You don't actually have to make any effort. You can be lying in your bed, you can be sitting in your chair, you can be in a conference, you can be in your car, on a plane, you can be in any situation. You are able to pray in any of these situations. Even if someone ties up your hands and ties you to a chair, and still, so long as you have not lost your mind, you're still able to pray and ask Allah to relieve you. So Allah has made prayer very easy, and He's promised that He will answer us. So prayer is actually the most easiest and beneficial thing for us in all of our problems, and is a very good stress reliever, and is related to relaxation as well. And when we put our head on the floor in prostration, this actually is said to release negative energy and strengthens the positive energy. Fasting also helps us to learn self-control and patience. And so if we learn this self-control and patience, we are better able to deal with other things. Anything that happens to us, we can deal with it. And when we're faced with difficult circumstances, we can deal with these. We've learned how to be patient and learned how to, not be in the best situation, and perhaps deal with hunger and thirst, and be better to deal. And we have more experience to deal with these things that may happen to us. And charity, we tend to think of just giving money, but charity is, the main thing is giving money and helping people. But charity can be anything that helps and benefits others, giving our time, volunteering, or something like this. And it's been said that by psychologists that actually helping others and giving to others and giving from our time, giving charity, benefits ourselves, not just others. Helping others has been found to improve our own mental health. And the Quran, the last thing I will mention, there are many things we can mention, but the Quran especially, if we understand it, the beliefs of the Quran and the practices of the Quran, all of them, they'll help us to lead a way of life that's respectable, and this way of life will help us to reduce our stress level, because it teaches people how to behave and what to do in different circumstances. And if we look around us in society now, you'll find many people, they feel stressed in situations that they don't know how to deal with, and they don't actually know what's happening. So because of this ignorance, which all people, they have to some extent, people feel overwhelmed sometimes. They don't know what to do when they meet a new kind of people, for example, or they don't know how to deal with, for example, someone passing away. What will happen to them, and maybe they'll have many questions and they'll need answers. So the Quran actually provides many of the answers to the questions that people have in situations. For example, I remember people, when I was a child, passing away, so I naturally had questions about what happens when people die, where do they go, what will happen to me, what's the purpose of my life, and also how to deal if someone has passed away, what to do with them, how to deal with that. If someone wants to get married, how do they get married, what do they do, how to go about that. So Islam provides a way of life to not to force people in one way, but to guide them and give them a direction, and to show them the way that they can behave. There's a lot of things that are open, but there is a specific way and that you can do things. So this is actually reduces stress, because we know what we will be doing, and this actually brings us comfort. And the Quran itself as well calls itself a cure for the hearts, or a remedy for the hearts. And this is because, I was wondering about what's the meaning of this from some time ago. But, people, they say that listening to the Quran itself is actually very calming. But it's not just the listening. The whole message of the Quran is a remedy for the hearts, because it's giving glad tidings to people. Firstly, when people are feeling lost, or they're not, they they need answers to questions. The heart is actually the place. According to Islam, the heart is not just the place of emotion; it's the place of the intellect. When we have questions, when we need answers, it's from the heart. Our belief is in the heart. So correcting people's belief and telling them the right belief, and also answering people's questions, and also giving people glad tidings that after they've gone through hardships and after they've dealt with all these problems, they will have reward, and that Allah is always there. So people will feel comfort, and they will have the answers to their questions, and they will feel that they have a guidance and a way to behave. Because let's face it, children, they look to their parents for guidance. But when people are adults, people think maybe they don't need guidance. But actually, our whole lives, all the time, we are in need of something to guide us. We're all the time learning. Whatever age we become, we still need sometimes to know what to do in a new situation. And the Quran was also revealed in different situations, so it teaches us how to relate to these different situations, and gives us stories and parables of people who've gone through similar situations, so that we can learn from them and see them as examples. And it was revealed to people who were suffering from persecutions, hardships, sadness, and difficulties. So there's many verses that talk about, the benefits of patience. And we're talking about that Allah will test people with something from losing things, and not enough money, and you know being afraid, and losing bounties, for example. And we're told that we should be patient in these times. Allah will give reward to the patient people. And the stories are given to show how patient the prophets and righteous people were before, and how they dealt with these difficult situations. And all of the stories seem to have the same theme, that when people are patient and when they trust in Allah, in the end they will receive reward, and in the end maybe their life will change for the better. So we learn that the main thing is patience. And reading the Quran is and its sound is said to be relaxing in itself, and it also explains why we have tribulations and why we are tested. Because I think a lot of people don't understand this thing, and they just think that these things happen randomly and they should not happen. But when we know that they're going to happen, when we can prepare, when we know we have an exam, we'll know how to deal with things better, for example. And the stories of the Quran, as we said, they provide hope, and they give us an idea of how to deal with issues. And the Quran also promises reward after hard work, so we can expect a reward in the hereafter. But also on this earth, we're told that, for example, when people are patient on this earth, or when they've done good things, they receive a reward as well here. But we are encouraged to think about the next life more than this one. And we are reminded that Allah is there, and He cares for people and answers their prayers. And of course, Allah wants good for us. So normally these situations, that even if we think they're bad, in some ways, Allah wants us to learn something or experience something in the situation that will have a good effect on us in the end. And we don't always see this good thing immediately. It could be after many years that we find that we've learned something from this situation, or we struggled with this situation and we came out of it, and we learned something new and experienced something else. So this situation was actually beneficial for us in the end. And in essence, life and the problems of life are all temporary. Normally, problems don't remain all the time. People who are poor may go through times where they have more money, and on the other hand, people may lose their money when they've had money. So life is constantly changing, and if we can learn how to deal with these different uh, situations in life that we will inevitably go through, we will come out better, wiser, and stronger people. So this is how we should deal with stress. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them.